It is now time to talk about Adrian Street. Jack, have you got to watch the Adrian Street? I don't know the exact name of the documentary that he has out. Did you get to see that?
There are two. There's a shorter version on the WWE Network that's really good, but it's only about 45 minutes. The other one, I did get to see it. I wanted to go back and watch it today, and then I remembered you got to rent it. And I'm cheap, so I wouldn't know. But all kidding aside, it is well worth watching. I mean, it's very well put together. Lots of big name wrestlers they interviewed. A lot from Great Britain that they talked about his career. It was very, very good. The one on WWE Network just kind of glosses over everything, but the one, it's available through Amazon Prime. I know you can rent it there. It is well worth the investment.
Well, Adrian Street was born in 1940 to a mining family. At 15, he was taken out of school by his father to work in a coal mine. That had to be difficult at the age of 15.
Yeah.
He hated that. He has said in the interviews that I hated that. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. So when he was 16, he left home. And I believe these photographs that I have right now could have been when he was around that age. It could have been a little older. But this was 1955. So I guess that would have been about 15 years old. Here's Adrian Street.
Yeah.
About the time that he wanted to leave and become a professional wrestler. He said that he really didn't know any wrestlers from Britain. He only knew wrestlers from the United States because you would get the magazines from there. He watched on television or nothing. But here is another picture with, I guess, would have been a little bit maybe around that same time as well. Adrian was always in great shape, wasn't he?
Yeah, those pictures are actually from his modeling that he did for several magazines.
Wow.
I think, used those later on for wrestling, obviously, too, but those were from his modeling gigs that he got for a while.
Well, he said when he would talk about being a professional wrestler, they'd always tell him he was too small. Yep. He wasn't big enough. The other miners ridiculed him on his ambition and told him, little guys like you can't be pro wrestlers. He said, they'll rip you in half. Now, you got to remember, wrestling a little bit more legitimate in Britain at that time. He left the mine for the last time. He made it clear he was not coming back. His father was standing there, and the other miners asking if he would come back. He said, oh, yeah, he's going to come back. He likes his mother's cooking too much. He said that's what made him not ever want to stop. He wanted to continue going. This is the thing. I guess we'd have to ask, Jack, at 15 years old, would you have left and went from where he lived to London at 15 years old?
Well, yeah, certainly, recounting the issues he had, not only with working the mines, which he hated, but his father and himself, they didn't have a very good relationship. His father was a prisoner of war during World War II. He was a prisoner of the Japanese. Adrian was 5 years old before he was released and came back home. And he said they just never, ever had a good relationship his entire life. So he wasn't only trying to get away from the mines, he was tired of the way his father treated him too. Now, he's never said anything about his father being abusive, but there was no good relationship between the two. And I will point out real quick too, he was from South Wales. Don't ever say he's from England because he chastised me for that 2 months ago.
Rodney, would you have left at 15 years old and went on your own from where he lived to London?
Probably not.
I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have had the guts enough to do that.
You never know when you're in a situation in where our family wouldn't have put us in the mine. We had pretty cushy growing up, if you want to be honest about it.
This is true. This is what Adrian Street said in the interview. He said, the thing is, they didn't realize how good that did for me, for them telling me I wouldn't make it. He said, I would have starved to death I would have died in the streets of London rather than come back and give them the satisfaction. Strong words that you would rather do that. As Jack said, you know, he didn't see his father till 5. Adrian made his way to London, and he went to a YMCA where he ran into 2 wrestlers. Now, one of these wrestlers, he said, was Abe Jacobs. Would that have been the Abe Jacobs we know of?
Yeah.
So that would have
same guy.
So that'd have been the same guy and some other guy. I can't remember who he said the other guy was. Do you all remember, Jack? You remember?
I don't remember offhand, no.
Well, they said that at first they told him, hey, listen, you're too small, you're too young to sleeve. There's no way you're going to make it. He told them both. This is what Adrian said. He pointed at the Abe and he said, well, I'm going to whip you first, and then you just stand around and wait, and I'm going to whip you next. Adrian thought he was kind of a tough guy because he was a pretty tough person from where he was at. He said both them wrestlers took turns at him and beat him so bad and hurt him so bad during that 2 hours he was there that he couldn't even hold his head up to drink some milk, that he had to hold his head up and take that milk and drink it. That's how bad they beat him in that thing. And they did tell him, don't come back. Don't come back. You need to be bigger and older.
It was from that beating that he and Linda started having their relationship. He had met Linda, and he was hurting so bad after that, he knew he couldn't take care of himself. And the only person he knew that he had met was Linda. And he showed up at her door and basically fell in the door when she opened the door. And she took care of him for 2 weeks till he was able to get up and get out around on his own again. And they've been together ever since.
Rodney, would you have came back? Somebody beat you that bad? Would you have came back?
No, and I'd get the message. They didn't want me around.
Jack, if you would have got beat up that bad, would you have came back? I mean, you were a wrestler. Would you have came back for it?
Well, you know, back when I started, they wanted to beat you up pretty bad. They wanted to see how tough you were. I never had that mentality, but I went through that. Now, on the other hand, I was 6'4" and 300 pounds. So, and right out of the Army. So beating me up wasn't quite as easy as what they envisioned to begin with. But now I don't know. It just shows how much heart he had and how bad he wanted it, that he would take that and come back for more.
Well, evidently the YMCAs in that area they just had wrestling being trained everywhere. He found another YMCA. He didn't go back to that one. I guess he felt like
that was a good idea. That's what I was talking about. You wouldn't go back to the same place. You'd try somewhere else.
Well, he did it. He went to another YMCA and he ran into a guy named Chip Osmond. He said, and he did train him. He said he trained him a little bit. He didn't beat him up as bad as the rest of them. He did train him. And Chip ended up getting a contract, I guess, with the big wrestling organization in Great Britain. And so he had some towns, independent shows. I don't know I think they called them independent shows there. I don't know that they called them outlaw groups. They didn't say this in an interview anyway. I don't know, Jack, did you hear that? Did they call them outlaws there or did they call them?
I don't remember what they called them, but I know World of Sport was the big promotion over there.
For the big, well, Chip evidently got a contract with them. So Adrian was going to take care of all of his independent shows. He said, go and take care of them. And Adrian admitted, oh, yeah, that sounds great. The only problem was they did not smarten Adrian up before he got to the show. He thought he was in an athletic contest and you were supposed to beat him. And when they took him, he said that he got in the ring, and within 2 minutes, he broke the guy's shoulder he was wrestling against. 2 minutes. You would think, and they said the promoter came in and went, what in the world are you doing? He said, well, I beat the guy. He said, I'm ready for the world champion. I'm ready for the champion. He said, what? I'm ready for the champion. I beat the guy. He said, I beat your big guy. I'm ready for the world champion now. Well, they had to smarten him up after this. And they sent him to some guy, and I can't remember. Adrian talked about a guy. I believe maybe the guy's name was Monroe or something. I don't know, but he sent him to a guy and said, I want you to go down there, and he's going to train you how to die. So in other words, he's going to train them how to wrestle and how to actually get hit and sell it and those kind of things. Would you think that you put somebody on a card, Adrian Street? Would you think you'd have to smarten them up? But you said,
Well,
Jeff,
let's remember how small he was. A lot of people made the mistake of taking him for granted because he wasn't a big guy, especially at that time. So, but I was in the same boat as we've talked about. They didn't smart me up till I beat the same guy up 3 nights in a row.
So what do y'all think that and I'll ask Rodney this, do you think they thought Adrian couldn't beat the guy?
That's exactly what they thought.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't tell him nothing. They just thought
they just told this guy, "Oh, this will be easy. He doesn't know what he's doing. You can beat him easy. So go ahead." And then they back there, like, what happened? I thought I could beat him easy.
Adrian said they didn't want to call him Adrian Street when he got there. And he said his 2 favorite wrestlers was Don Leo Jonathan and Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. That was the 2 people that he liked. The promoter asked him, he said, what is your name? And he said he was thinking about it, and he said Kid Jonathan. He wanted to be named after Don Leon, and there was a boxer that I think he had wrestled as kid something, and he said that's what I call him. And he said, well, let's call you Tarzan. Let's call you Tarzan Jonathan. He said, what about Kid Tarzan Jonathan? And that's the name that he came up with. And he wrestled as that name for years before he wrestled as Adrian Street. When he broke the guy's shoulder, the promoter said, hey, you're going to have to take this guy's bookings. And then that's when he sends him to the guy to train him how to wrestle. And he said, when you come back, you're going to have to take all his bookings because the guy's going to be out for weeks because you broke his shoulder. And I don't think when you listen to Adrian do the interview, I don't think he really was upset about breaking the guy's shoulder.
Yeah, it kind of worked out for him.
It did. He would get his big break. And here is a picture of him. I'll throw that picture up in a minute. But he would get his big break with a big promotion because television was getting big time there. I think that they were running all over the place when these TVs hit. Rodney, you had talked to Adrian, I think, a little bit about when he first started on television there. Didn't you talk to him a little bit about that?
Yeah, he's talked about it. He said he needed to get he was smaller, so he needed a gimmick pretty much. And so he said, I started off with kind of a wig, and he said I had a flowery a robe, and he said I made them myself. And he said I started off doing that, and he said it just evolved over the years. I just added to it. He said the more outrageous I got, the better it got, the more attention I got, because basically I was on the first matches. And all of a sudden now, as the more wilder I got, put the makeup on, get my hair dyed, make it up curly. The more wild I got, the more attention I got. That was his deal.
It's funny because he talked about that. He said that he thought they would when they came down to the ring, he thought they would say, "Oh, look at Adrian Street! Oh, he's so magnificent! He's so great!" But they didn't do that. They hollered, "Oh, Mary! Oh, isn't she cute?"
Yeah. Oh, Mary, give us a kiss.
Stuff like that. He actually said in an interview that he felt like the fans are who developed his character. He said they helped develop. Now, he was not called Exotic Adrian Street when he first started. He actually was called Nature Boy Adrian Street. And mainly because he would go and he would get on the bus with the people, and they would stop at these greasy spoon restaurants, and they'd eat all the greasy food, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't buy the stuff. He brought his own stuff to eat, and so he didn't eat that stuff. So the guy that was writing for the magazines started calling him Nature Boy. Adrian Street. So he was Nature Boy way before there was a Ric Flair, way before there was Buddy Landell and whoever else is out there calling themselves the Nature Boy. I think there's a couple other guys out there that's called themselves that throughout the years. In one of these, let me throw these pictures because I think this might be around that time frame that he decides to do it. And he also said that he really didn't know what they were calling him. until he got to the towns, and he would go look at the posters, and then he finally seen that the boys was calling him Nature Boy, and they started calling him Nature Boy in the on the posters and on the television as well. And here's another picture that would come a little later. Street would come a little later, and he said he would only put on the eye shadow for a while. It took him a while to put on all the makeup and stuff, and also said that Elton John, David Bowie, what is it that they called that, the glam rock, that he kind of started that. It's just an incredible thing. The thing about it is, he said, I was used to ridicule. So he said that it really didn't bother him that the people would say, "Oh, Mary, oh, isn't he cute?" He said it didn't bother him because he said, I had been ridiculed all my life. So it never bothered him. He said, so when I got back in the dressing room and they'd ask, "Oh, what did you do? It didn't work." He said, "Oh, everything happened the way I wanted it to." And he always told them that. And he said that in 1973, he won the European Middleweight Championship. Here's a picture from 1975. I couldn't find one when he won the title in 1973. But boy, Adrian was in shape here.
Yeah.
This is the world middleweight wrestling champion. But he won that, and there was a big magazine that wanted to do a story on him. And he said, the only way you can do a story on me is you got to let me pick where to take the picture. And he actually said that, I want to go take the picture in the mines, the coal mines where my father works.
Yep.
And that's where he ends up with a couple of really pictures. And here's one right here of Adrian Street with the other miners looking there, and there is his father.
Yep.
And Jack, what do you remember of him talking about this?
He said that look that his dad had on his face was pure disdain, and it was real. That he was greatly embarrassed by him showing up dressed like that.
Wow. He said this photograph is a revenge photograph. It's him going back to the pit where he had worked and been bullied, teased, and laughed at, to show his father, the guys in the pit, what he had made of himself and how proud he was of how he looked.
Yep.
He said, I think by now I've proved my dad and the other coal miners wrong. People have asked if and that's when he told him, he said, people ask if he had invented glam rock. Street said, I'll tell them no, but we sure did borrow a lot from each other. Let me just go over a couple while we're looking at this picture. Let me go over a couple of matches that he had. Adrian Street went against Bobby Barnes on February 15th, 1964 in Hampshire, England. He was in Portsmouth, Hampshire, England on December 23rd. Burt Royal and Vic Faulkner defeated Adrian Street and Bobby Barnes. Right there they are as the Hells Angels.
Yep.
They
tagged quite a while over there.
Here's another Jackie Paulo, and Jackie Paulo Jr. defeated Adrian Street and Bobby Barnes by disqualification on September 1st, 1972. So you look at 1966, they were teaming with each other. 1972, they're still teaming with each other. And then in May of 1981, Adrian Street made his way to Canada to wrestle for Stu Hart, where he wrestled Bruce Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Bret Hart, Keith Hart. And by the way, folks, Adrian does not like Keith Hart. I don't know what the man did to him, but he did not say good things about Keith Hart.
Yeah.
And he would also team with the Dynamite Kid during this time. He would then go to Germany, where he helped bring Bret Hart, Dynamite Kid, Jim Neidhart on the tour with him. Now, Keith Hart wanted to go with him. He didn't want Keith Hart to go with him, so he told the promoter, if Keith Hart goes, I'm not going. Keith Hart does. I think he said Keith Hart does end up going there. But he pays his own way and everything there. But I don't know that he actually wrestled on it, because I don't think Adrian would wrestle. It'd be very interesting to hear more information on why he didn't like Keith Hart. He liked Bruce. He really liked Bruce. I guess Bruce was booking that at the time.
Yeah, and Smithhart, he had a good relationship with Smith also.
Yeah. So here's a couple other. He actually, in February of 1982, he would go to the Grand Olympic Auditorium, where he defeated a guy named Tim Talltree. I don't know that I couldn't find any photographs of this match. Then he would, in March, he would, in Santa Ana, California, Mondo Guerrero defeated Adrian Street by disqualification. And then Los Angeles, California, on March 14th, 1982, Adrian Street defeated Sweet Brown Sugar, but not the one we know of. This was a guy named Luis Marcelica or something like that. I guess he was a Spanish wrestler. But actually, Adrian Street won his first title in the United States. He won the NWA America's heavyweight title in a loser leaves town match. So Sweet Brown Sugar left. Adrian Street stayed around. Here's another match on April 5th, 1982 in Santa Ana, California. Chris Adams on this show, and Ringo Wrigley defeated Adrian Street and Timothy Flowers III. June 11th, 1982, Los Angeles, California. Adrian Street defeated Black Gordman. And here's a match I would have liked to see. June 25th, 1982, Los Angeles, Adrian Street against Mil Mascaras.
Yeah.
I wonder if Mil did the stuff to Adrian that he did to most people.
I'd be willing to bet he didn't.
I wouldn't think so. Then on August 27th, 1982, Los Angeles, Mando Guerrero and Hector Guerrero defeated Timothy Flowers III and Adrian Street. This Timothy Flowers III must have been there for a long time. He must have been a great
Diamond Timothy Flowers. He had quite a career.
And then he would return to Germany, and he would tour in September, and then he would make his way to Memphis Wrestling. And the next time we talk about Adrian Street, we'll talk about his time in Memphis. Very interesting time for Adrian in Memphis, Tennessee, and I think that's where he meets Jim Cornette, and we'll talk about that on the next installment of Adrian Street. Rodney, anything that we left out that he told you in talking with him about his early career?
Yeah, when I talked to him, and Dad accused me of being a mark. I asked a question. I was just interested in how he developed. And he said it wasn't something that was done overnight. It took years and years to develop. And then, of course, his skills of he and Linda were able to make his outfits. But yeah, it was not something that was automatic. He said, I just played with it. I kept going, adding a little bit to it. And like you were saying before, the crowd helped him develop it. The audience helped him develop it. So yeah, that's what he told me when I asked him the question. And then after I told Dad about all the story, what Adrian told me, he said, are you a mark or what?
You should have said, yeah, I wanted to know about Adrian Street.
Well, no, I thought it was interesting to find out, these are not things that you're just given. These are, as we're learning, it was things that were developed over the years. You just don't say, okay, all today you're going to be, you're going to be Superman today. No, it takes years to develop. Superstar Billy Graham took years to develop his character. Hulk Hogan is another one that took years to develop. And so that was what I was really asking the question of, how did you develop? How many years did it take? That was the question I was asked, but then Dad said I was a mark.
Jack, is there anything that we're missing that we need to talk about before his career, before he gets to Memphis Wrestling?
Not offhand, but there's so much yet to be told about Adrian. So you guys stay tuned and come in for that, because we got lots more to say.
And by the way, Adrian Street does have a Facebook page. A good Christmas gift would be one of his little dolls he's got. I think he's got them for sale. He's got his albums. He's got a lot of stuff. And somehow you contact him through Facebook, I believe.
Yep.
To get the merchandise from him. But do so. Go onto Adrian Street's Facebook page. Go on there and buy you something. Let Adrian Street sign it and send it to you. I don't think you'll be, especially his albums. If you've never heard them, get them. They're great.
And his autobiography is up to 7 or 8 volumes now.
Wow.
So those are available too.
So go over there, Adrian Street. I guess it's just put Adrian Street on. It'll come up, Exotic Adrian Street, and get over there and buy something from him and support him for all the entertainment that he gave us throughout the years. Adrian Street, and we'll be giving you part 2 coming up in the next few months.